Good evening. My name is Sandy Pantoja, your Neighborhood Services Coordinator for Districts 3 and 4. If you have any questions about anything neighborhood related, please feel free to contact me at any time at 714-765-4635 or via email at spantoja@anaheim.net. Before we get started, if anyone needs Spanish interpretation, please click on the globe icon located at the bottom right corner of your Zoom screen and choose Spanish. If you're using your smartphone, simply click on the three dots on the bottom right side and choose Interpretation to Spanish. Si necesita servicios de interpretación al español, favor de oprimir el botón con la imagen del globo localizado en el lado inferior derecho de su pantalla y elija español. Si usted está usando su teléfono inteligente, favor de hacer clic en los tres puntos al lado inferior derecha de su pantalla. Neighborhood Services community meetings are part of the Anaheim Neighborhood Improvement Program that assists neighborhoods and residents to improve the livability of their neighborhood to enable them to help themselves through the creation of partnership with the city and other stakeholders. When the COVID-19 pandemic started last year, we produced pre-recorded videos with important updates. Now we are bringing you these Zoom webinars. We hope you find them useful and informative. And if you have questions during the webinar, please use the Q&A feature on the bottom right of your screen, and we will do our best to answer any questions at the end of the presentation. All right, we'll dive into our agenda. First up, we have Sergeant Mark Lillemoen with the Central Community Policing Team, who will provide us with updates on current crime trends and crime prevention tips. Sergeant Lillemoen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sandy. Thanks for everyone attending tonight. It seems like quite a while since we've all been able to meet like this, or at least meet somehow. And we look forward to getting back to seeing you guys in person. As far as crimes in the city, by far, one of the most reported crimes to us are property type crimes. These are like thefts, auto burglaries, package thefts, stuff like that. And when we look at like the prevention of those things, like what can the police do to prevent those crimes? We look at a thing called the crime triangle. If you've never heard of it, it's looking at how crime happens. You have a suspect, a victim, and a location. And if you take any one of those things away from the crime, then you won't have a crime. So in the past, typical police response has been, let's go after the offender, take the bad guy to jail, and then take him out of the picture. And now we don't have crimes happening anymore. But because of changes in laws and overcrowding in jails and sentences that aren't as strict and just a variety of other reasons, those methods don't really work anymore like they used to. So what we've really transitioned towards is not becoming victims. And this is through education and like hardening our targets. For example, don't leave valuables in your cars or lock your cars. Or if you have a package delivered to your house and you're not home, ask your neighbors if they can pick it up for you. Or if it's something you're concerned about it getting stolen, have it delivered to like an Amazon locker box where you can pick it up and it's going to be safe and secure until that point. Just a bunch of prevention tips of things that we can do to try to not become victims of crimes. Another thing we look at is the location, where we come out and we do what's called a CPTED, and that's crime prevention through environmental design. So we'll meet with businesses or residents or other locations in the city, and we'll go over things that are drawing criminal elements to the property. Sometimes it could be lighting. Sometimes it's overgrown bushes that provides cover and hiding spots for people. Or sometimes it's something as minor as like an outlet where somebody can hang out and charge their phone. So, those are a few of the things that we are looking at now, trying to prevent some of these crimes. And we really ask for everyone's assistance to help with that too. Another thing I want to remind you all of is if unfortunately you do become a victim of a crime, it's very important to us that you report it to us. And I know it can be inconvenient at times to do that. So you can simply go onto anaheim.net and report the crime online if it's a minor theft or something like that. This is helpful to us because we do track crime trends on a weekly basis, and that's what we use to focus our resources and direct, our attention to areas that are getting hit harder. One other thing that's come up that you really need to be aware of is some scams that are going on. There's some going on with WhatsApp or other texting apps where people are somehow getting into group chats and they're soliciting money from the group or anybody in the group for whatever scenario they have put up. Or we've actually heard of people getting phone calls from somebody who's representing themselves as a police officer or from our police department, and they're asking to send money. Nobody from the Anaheim Police Department is ever going to call you on the phone and ask you to send them money or gift cards or anything like that. So if you hear something like that, it's a scam, and just hang up on them. We also get several calls for service related to homeless issues. And I know Sandra Lozo is going to talk in a minute about the new CCRT for the outreach resources. But where the police come in is when those methods don't work and we have people that are trespassing on properties, we have a trespass letter in place. If you own a business or a property and there's people on your property on a regular basis that you don't want there, you can put a trespassing letter on file with the police department for up to a year. You can do that by going online to the city website and searching for trespassing, or you can send it in. There's some samples on there, or you can email it in to us. One other thing that you should know is the Anaheim Police Department is currently hiring officers. So if you know anyone who is interested, you can direct them over to joinanaheimpd.com. They recently opened up, or they're opening up for lateral police officers and city employees. And then on March 4th, they're opening it up to everyone for police officer training positions. And just this past Wednesday on Facebook and Instagram, we did a live presentation with our recruiting team. So you can go back and watch it. It's actually on YouTube as well. Watch the Coffee with a Cop that we did live about our recruiting process. I think that's all I have, Sandy. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant Lalamo, for that useful information. If you just joined us, please remember that you can ask a question during the meeting by pressing the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. If you need interpretation in Spanish, please click on the globe icon located at the bottom right corner of your screen. Si necesita servicios de interpretación al español, favor de oprimir el botón con la imagen del globo localizado al lado derecho de su pantalla. Next, we have our Community Preservation Manager, Sandra Lozo, who will be providing us with information on the newly formed Community Care Response Team and other important code enforcement updates. Sandra, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sandy. And for those of you that might have remembered me as Sandra Sagert, I did change my last name. Once the DMV office is open, I was able to do that. So I do go by Sandy Lozo now, but if you email me at the prior email, it'll still get to me. So a couple things I wanted to talk about. We run into a lot of people mentioning that they've been seeing reports of situations on Nextdoor. And just to remind everybody, government, we're not on Nextdoor. So if you do see situations that people are struggling with, please encourage them to use our Anaheim Anytime. It's the easiest way to report and get to the right people to answer any issues you might be having, or the My Anaheim app. Related to COVID, we as code enforcement are taking the lead on responding to any complaints coming in related to businesses or issues regarding COVID. And so continue to send those in. We are working with some state agencies as well to help coordinate and provide awareness, education, and some guidelines from CDC in the state to make sure everybody's reopening according to the guidelines set by CDC. The other thing we're still doing is parking enforcement only for emergency situations right now. With a lot of people still staying at home, we are doing heavy enforcement on red curbs, blocking of our public alleys, handicap locations, fire hydrants, and that's so we can continue to have emergency vehicles access those neighborhoods. With more people staying at home, there's more instances happening, and we want to make sure whether power goes out or a fire or any other instance that our emergency vehicles can get into your neighborhood quickly. We are not doing any other enforcement like permit parking at this time. We're going to be waiting for other tier openings of the state, and as more people get back into work mode and leaving their areas to go to work all day, then we'll start looking at that permit parking enforcement coming back. I did want to let people know as an update, it is coyote season. We call it dating season. So the pups from last year are now looking for their mates right now. And so we do have an upcoming coyote meeting on February 25th. Next week at 6 p.m. If that's of interest of you, we do have on our webpage, a Coyote webpage. You can find it at anaheim.net. You type in Coyotes, and we have our senior code officer, Jesse Becerra's contact information, and he can add you to our email group and send you the link. It will be a virtual meeting. We're just gonna be providing updates of where we're at. Obviously during COVID, there was some activity throughout the pandemic, and so we were still responding and working. Even though there may be a lot of other departments that are telecommuting, our code enforcement have been here the whole time and responding to complaints and reporting all the coyote sightings and sending out any treatments that we need to do to protect our community. So if you're interested, please visit our website. It has our activity map and everything on there. Another interest for this particular district's vendors, we've seen an uptick in vendors, and obviously there's been some change in state law, and that was out of a lawsuit in LA regarding, it was more regarding immigration issues with vendors, but there was state law passed that decriminalized vending activity and required us to pass ordinances. So we have done that. And so related to food vendors, we're pairing up with the Orange County Health Department to make sure if a food vendor comes and gets a permit with us, they have the health permit and the proper permits to be where they're located. Right now, the vast majority are not permitted, so we are doing some enforcement there. And then the flower vending is obviously a big one. So we're continuing to look at ways to help in that area, because I know we've been receiving a lot of complaints, but we're looking on how to abide by state law and still be able to help our community with issues they're seeing. On a good note, regarding illegal marijuana dispensaries, we're down to only 2, and they're mainly on the west side. I don't think there's any in this particular, these 2 districts that we're aware of. Not just kudos to a lot of our different departments working together, from utilities to code enforcement to police to fire to public works. So we've been able to shut down quite a few illegal ones, and down to 2. Unfortunately, we have seen an uptick in what we call, or being referred to as, slap houses, which is more of the illegal gambling. And so again, those departments are teaming up and hitting a lot of those. There might have been some news articles that you might have seen this past week on one off of Euclid and Lincoln at an old furniture place. So we have about 11 citywide we're working right now. More than half, or a little bit less than half, are over on the west side of town, but there are some in this area, and we are working them. So if you see, you know, some vacant buildings and activity going in and out, just doesn't look right, please report it, and we'll make sure we get our teams out there to check on those. Then I wanted to go over homeless a little bit, and also highlight our new pilot program. We, as many of you know, have our outreach workers and our homeless outreach team out there helping to get people off the street. Our current council approved last December, on December 15th, to create a community care response team. And so if you look at our homeless webpage, we added that icon to the right there to give more information of this pilot program. And this came out of some interest led by our chief of police. It came out of a lot of the protests we saw this last year, the George Floyd incident, and really on ways that we could utilize police reform in a positive way. That's a win-win, not only for our police department, but our community. Our community care response team is made up of outreach workers, nurse practitioners, and mental health clinicians, as well as plainclothes security officers out there just for safety reasons. And they are now responding to normal police calls coming in related to homelessness that are non-emergency, non-criminal related. We kicked this team off in a matter of weeks after getting approval from council on December 15th and kickstarted it on January 1. And we've already started to see some success stories. And so there's a few goals with this pilot program. One of them is to not have our police be first responders to non-emergency, non-criminal related calls for service for homelessness, but having skilled professionals go out there. And so already in our first month, we've seen a 30% diversion of calls that would normally come into our police dispatch that are now diverted to community care response team. And so we've seen a 30% reduction in those calls for service on homelessness, non-emergency, now being responded to by this community care response team and not our police department as first responders. The other goal is this community care response team is working 7 days a week, 14-hour shifts from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. This is hugely beneficial when we're talking about nights and weekends of getting and having more touches with our homeless community to help more off the street and into shelter and housing. So we have a report online that you can utilize, which is our Anaheim Anytime, and it goes straight to our community care response team. So whether you see someone panhandling off the freeway or maybe someone on a bus bench, non-emergency, non-criminal related, people in the park that may need some assistance, then you can call that hotline 714-820-9090. And that's our public line. So we've had our community members, we've had city employees, and we've even had those experiencing homelessness call that line. And during those 14-hour shifts, we have the CCRT team respond very quickly and have been able to get many people off the street into shelter. So that's been a second goal of ours. The third goal is this CCRT is paid for out of Emergency Solution Grant federal dollars that are strictly for homeless and COVID related. So this team not only is trying to help not have our police be first responders and get more people off the street into shelter, but also providing a lot of personal protection equipment and awareness regarding COVID. As many of us were to stay home with the stay home order, they didn't have a home. And so how do we protect that community? So providing information on getting tested and where, as well as getting vaccinated now is very beneficial with this team out in the field. And we've already seen some success with that and slowing the spread in our homeless community. The fourth piece is to hopefully throughout this 1 year program is to regionalize it countywide to where all calls for service coming in that are non-emergency would go into one central regionalized location, and having CCRT throughout the county and utilizing all the county shelters and options available, including the Be Well OC facility that just opened up this month, which is for mental health and substance abuse. And that's going to be, again, a huge benefit for our community on getting those skilled professionals out there and getting the help that our people experiencing homelessness need. And this is also huge as we're continuing to go through this year with the eviction moratorium getting lifted at some point. And so we're trying to also prepare and catch people before they get into homelessness. I am going to have them show you our latest report with statistics just to kind of see the work they've been doing in just the months, about 6 weeks since January 1. And you'll see that they've already responded to over 1,100 calls coming in, and we have them breaking them out on the map. If you look at the bottom, we're breaking them out and trying to really fundamentally shift and shift the culture of people naturally calling our police department and shifting that to Anaheim Anytime. So we're starting to see the APD dispatch calls go down, our Anaheim Anytimes go up, even direct community calls to our public hotline. And then we even have proactive contacts where we have some hotspots thanks to a lot of the community calling in and letting us know some problematic areas that they are able to proactively go out to. You will see on the map some red dots outside our city limits. That is okay. They are Anaheim homeless community residents that had to go to other either housing options or recuperative care or hospitals. And we want to make sure our team stays in touch with them throughout the process. So that's why you'll see dots just a little bit outside of our our boundaries is because they're at specific facilities to continue to help them. What's great is you'll see on the street exits, we have reached 100 people since January 1 that we've been able to get off the street, and we continue to maintain a 90% retention rate, meaning that once we're able to get individuals into some type of shelter, they tend to stay there with only 10% coming back out. And we're starting to really get to some of those more service resistive groups out there by touching them more often, having this team out there 7 days a week. You'll also see the COVID-19 engagements, and that's all of the awareness and personal protection equipment we've been giving, as well as case management, where if people still aren't kind of ready yet, or they don't want to go into the shelter for a variety of reasons, but we have them on a housing plan and in case management, we continue to keep them in touch to make sure we work them through that housing plan and get them off the street at some point. And then obviously we're starting to see now our mental health assessments and medical assistance out there with our nurse practitioners and mental health clinicians. And with Be Well OC opening up and having CCRT visit today, which is a fabulous facility in the city of Orange, and a partnership with our hospitals and the county, we're going to see hopefully some encouragement movement, not only for our homeless population suffering from substance abuse and mental health, but also this facility is for the county as a whole, for any of us that have family members that go into mental health crisis, now having a place to take our loved ones when they're in crisis mode. The other updates I wanted to provide is we're not done. Even though CCRT is kind of on the front end of our continuum of care of getting people off the street and into shelter, they're also helping us with evaluations and assessments of our population out there. And CityNet, our contractor, has been doing that since 2014. And with that data, we've been able to open up the back door of our shelters and get people into housing. And since we met last, in District 3, we had El Verano, which used to be the old Sandman Motel, open up in December, which is right next to Rockwood Apartments, which was also permanent supportive housing for formerly homeless families. And that opened up in December, and we were able to get over 50 of our homeless seniors, our aging homeless population, out of our shelters. And now they're no longer homeless and at this facility in permanent supportive housing with wraparound services. We also have a motel conversion project that's going to be being completed this year. It's the Econo Lodge, formerly Econo Lodge. We're going to be calling that property the Buena Esperanza. And that is for 89 studio units, again, permanent supportive housing. It is on the west side of town, so we're being cognizant of spreading out our permanent supportive housing. And that's going to house 89 individuals. We're starting to see with our assessments a lot of single individuals, a lot of males between the ages of 40 and 50. And so we're trying to then bridge that gap with a housing project with Buena Esperanza. We also have the Fillmore project over off of Manchester and Orangewood. It is going to have affordable housing, but also some set-aside units for our homeless. And we're also looking at processing some of our people out of our shelters when that project is done and completed. So we're really starting to see visually now people getting off the street all the way into housing units, which is very encouraging, but we're not done. So we're going to continue to do that. And the other update is we're continuing to partner with Caltrans in relocating people underneath some of our freeways. So some of the areas in your district are obviously 5 in Ball Road, 5 in Anaheim Boulevard, 91 in East. And Caltrans is now working with us, not only clearing the encampments and relocating people and restoring the property, but also looking to fortify to prevent future trespassing in that area to help with our community engagement and enhancements in those areas. So again, thank you for letting me provide you updates. And again, any questions, you can use that Q&A box and I'd be happy to answer them. But thank you. And that concludes for me, Sandy.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you for that very useful information. Next, we have our planning department staff, Senior Planner Elaine Temper-City, who will provide us an update on the Center City Corridor Plan. Elaine, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Andy. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. I'm just waiting a moment for the presentation to open up. Again, my name is Elaine Tienprosidi, and I am in the Planning and Building Department. So tonight I'm here to give you an update on the Center City Corridors Specific Plan Project. And if you haven't heard about this project before, I encourage you to visit the project website after the meeting to learn more about our efforts and see the specific recommendations for the plan and for our study area. So on the next slide, there's a map of our study area, and you can see it's a rather large area. It's about 2,600 acres. About 2/3 of the area is within District 3, and that boundary line is South Street. South of that is District 4, with about 1/3 of the study area. We also abut District 5 along East Street. So you'll also notice on the map that the major streets are highlighted, and these are Harbor and Anaheim and East going north and south, as well as La Palma, Lincoln, Broadway, and Ball running east and west. So this is because the targeted land use changes that we're proposing as part of this plan will be focused along these corridors with the intent of maintaining and enhancing our existing residential neighborhoods. So next slide. So I want to talk about funding for a bit. You might be wondering where the money is coming from. And since we're in the middle of a pandemic and city budget is extremely tight, I thought it's important to share how we are funding the project. And the first phase, which was the vision plan, is funded by a grant awarded by SCAG, which is the Southern California Association of Governments. The goals of that grant were focused on linking land use and transportation to create a sustainable communities plan. So we had originally asked for enough money to cover the cost of a full specific plan, but we were only given about 1/3 of what we asked for. So we broke the project up into phases. So that first phase being the vision plan, about halfway through that process, we applied for and were awarded a grant from Caltrans, and that will be funding the specific plan portion of the project. Neither of those grants covered the environmental analysis, so the city is going to be responsible for the costs of an environmental impact report. And with that grant funding, we procured the services of RRM Design Group through a competitive bid process. Next slide, please. So before we jump into the specific plan, I wanted to share the community-based vision plan. And a substantial part of this effort was community outreach. So over the course of a year, we conducted 3 days of stakeholder interviews. A workshop was held at the start of the project, and for that workshop, we mailed over 5,000 flyers to properties and owners within and around the study area. We did social media posts. We asked the school districts to send emails about the project to really just spread the word about the project and let people know that we were inviting them to participate. So also throughout the vision plan process, we went to several community events and had a booth there. We did Cinco de Mayo at La Palma Park, the tree lighting ceremony, Children's Festival, and other similar types of events around the city area. We came to the district meetings and we gave presentations to all of you folks. And we also had 2 phases of online surveys. So at the end of the visioning process and all of that outreach, we held an open house that was held at the Downtown Community Center. And that was held in January of 2020, so right before the pandemic started. And what we did there was put together all of the feedback that we had received over the year and shared it with the community and confirmed that folks agreed that this really was the vision for the study area. So next slide. And I didn't want to get too deep into the vision plan, but I did want to share the vision statement. And it's that Center City is the thriving civic, cultural, and community heart of Anaheim, building on a rich history and sense of place while providing a variety of opportunities for residents, businesses, and visitors alike. So the vision plan also established 10 guiding principles that were of importance to the community and have become the foundation of the specific plan. So my point here is that we're not starting over with the specific plan process, but we're building upon what we heard from the community as part of the visioning process. Next slide. So since you all are not planners, I thought I would share sort of a description of what a specific plan is and what would be contained in the document. So a specific plan is a tool that serves as a tailored zoning code for a specific area. It has to be consistent with the city's general plan, and it establishes policies and guidance for land use, placemaking, mobility, community services and amenities, and infrastructure decisions. And then on the right side of the screen, you can see the different things that are part of the vision plan. The introduction would include the purpose for why we're preparing a specific plan. It includes the history of the study area. The second bullet is that we would actually include the vision plan as part of the document. And then the plan are the various components that staff and the consultant will be making recommendations on: land use, mobility, infrastructure, et cetera. And then the last bullet being administration and implementation. And so that essentially is, how does this plan get implemented? And I think I wanted to make clear that approval of the plan doesn't approve a specific project or projects, but rather it provides opportunities to encourage private investment. So the plan will also help the city in applying for grant funding for public capital projects, such as new parks, roadway improvements, as well as sewer improvements and that sort of thing. So next. So as part of the specific plan process, we selected a community stakeholder group. And the purpose of the group is to capture a diverse cross-section of community members to represent a variety of community interests and perspectives. So you can see on the right-hand side, there are a number of organizations that are being represented in the group. And the purpose of having the CSG is to be a sounding board for staff to hear our ideas and recommendations and give us feedback. And we want our ideas to be vetted before incorporating them into a plan. Next. So we have meetings with our stakeholder group, and those meetings are similar to this meeting. They're on Zoom because of the pandemic, and the CSG members are panelists that have the opportunity to speak and ask questions, and then the community members can watch the meeting as a webinar and then ask questions and things through the chat. And so this slide shows the topics that we've met on so far. So meeting one was a kickoff meeting where everyone met each other and we talked about the vision plan and big ideas for the specific plan. Meeting two, we focused on land use and community facilities or parks. Meeting three, we focused on the public realm. So we talked about mobility, alleyways, as well as streetscape. And we have two more meetings coming up. The dates are not set yet, but meeting four I anticipate will be in about a month or two. And we'll be focusing on urban design. So that would be, design of the private property, and then an overview of the key concepts that we had covered at prior meetings. And later on in the process, we anticipate having a fifth meeting, which would be more like an open house, the kind of thing where normally we would all meet at a community center and, look at boards and maps and plans and have discussions. Given the circumstances, we probably will do it in Zoom, but everyone in the community will have the opportunity to speak and ask questions verbally, and we'll look for a good kind of format and platform to make that happen. And my last slide has to do with the timeline for the project. So this slide is the timeline for the specific plan. And it starts with the completion of the vision plan, which happened in April of 2020. We kicked off in June, and our consultant, did a lot of research on existing conditions, coordinated with staff. And then in fall, we started having the CSG meetings. And very shortly, we'll be beginning the environmental impact report and start drafting the specific plan. So this time frame between March and as identified as fall 2021, we'll be working on a draft. So you won't hear from us very much during that time. But when we do have a draft available, we will share it with the public and solicit feedback before bringing it to Planning Commission and City Council, which we anticipate happening in winter, so either late 2021 or very early 2022. So that is what we have to look forward to, and I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any in the chat. The project website is www.anaheim.net/C3, and that is a place where if you haven't already subscribed for updates, you can sign up there. And we don't send a lot of emails. We just send notifications of upcoming opportunities for community involvement and feedback, as well as some of the bigger project milestones. And I've also included my email address in case anybody wants to reach out to me directly with any questions. So that's all I had for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Please make sure to go visit the website if you have any questions about the C3 or send a question to Elaine. Next, I would like to invite our library staff to provide us with the latest updates that they are currently providing to our residents. With us, we have Senior Librarian Katrina Ford. Katrina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sandy, and hello, Districts 3 and 4. It's great to be with you all tonight. I want to give you guys a quick update on what's going on in the library world. Just so you guys know, we are open, and we have been for our central library, which is located in downtown. We've been open since the end of October at this point. We're open for public service between 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. We are still offering the curbside options if that is of interest to you. Our Euclid Library is currently offering curbside service. They are not reopened quite yet, but we do have a curbside service available for there, and that is available 12 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. So just a couple of things. The Anaheim Heritage Center and Founders Parks remains closed to the public, but research requests can be submitted through the library's website or by contacting Jane Newell directly by email. Her email address is jnewell, that's JNEWELL @anaheim.net, or by telephone at 714-765-6456. Again, that was 714-765-6456. Zoom appointments are also available upon request. Virtual tours of the historic Woelfel-Stokey and the Mother Colony houses, as well as the Carriage House's agricultural exhibit, have been completed and will be available soon to teachers and the public. Hopefully we'll be able to offer that in person at a future date. For Ponderosa and Euclid, while the Euclid Library remains closed to the public, we continue to find meaningful ways to connect and support our patrons by offering a wide range of resources and programs. And requested materials, of course, are available for curbside pickup. And while the Ponderosa Joint Use Library remains closed to the public, we continue to provide programs and services that support children and families in the community. We are offering a wide range of resources and programs. Library staff continue to visit the YMCA program at Ponderosa Elementary School District each week to distribute food bags to children. Thanks to our partnerships with Grandma's House of Hope, we're also giving away permanent loan books, which are books that have been donated to us. We just pay the cost of shipping, and kids get to keep them for free. Family Story Times is offered weekly every Wednesday, and a bi-monthly Spanish book discussion program and STEAM workshops are being offered virtually through Zoom, and a variety of system-wide programs and services can be found on the Anaheim Public Library. One thing specific, and this is the screen that Sandy has put up for us, that I did want to share, which is kind of exciting, is that we have a brand new program called STEAM Adventures that is comprised of several different parts. The first one is the STEAM on the Go and STEAM on the Go Bits Challenge. These are circulating hands-on science and art programs for elementary and middle school kiddos. There is currently over 29 different topics as of tomorrow. We're launching 2 brand new ones that we have available, everything from Frida Kahlo to chemistry, and then everything else in between. And we have over 110 different circulating kits available to be checked out for this program. We also have a new program which is called Expedition Live. This is a free virtual bookable hands-on STEAM programs and classes which are facilitated by a STEAM team member. Materials needed to complete the expeditions are provided at no cost. And just so you guys know, the STEAM on the Go and the STEAM on the Go Bits Challenge Expedition Live are actually sponsored by a grant that we received from the California State Library, as well as private donations. So this is all grant funded. And then one is a teaser I wanted to throw out to you guys. We have Exploration on Wheels, which is going to be a brand new STEAM van service that we will be visiting a variety of areas throughout Anaheim and providing hands-on arts and science programs once we can do so in a safe manner. We are expecting that to launch sometime this summer. So if you have any questions, please let me know, type them in the chat, and I would be happy to answer them. And it's great to see y'all virtually.
Thank you, Katrina. Please, I encourage everyone to visit the libraries and utilize all the resources they have for our community. I would like to encourage you to visit the city's COVID-19 webpage at anaheim.net/coronavirus to receive the latest updates and learn about important resources. Here, you can see there is a tab for vaccines, getting help, case count, testing, and reopening. If you click on these icons, you can see where there's locations to get the vaccines, further help. The emergency rental assistance program is going to start March 1st. So if anybody is an assistance of rental assistance, please feel free to visit this website. It has a lot of resources for all of our community here. Now we have arrived to the question Q&A portion of our meeting, and I would like to take this opportunity to answer all the questions that were asked in the chat. We will start with our community policing team. Sergeant Liliamoen, have you had any questions in the chat that you can answer for us?
There was a question I typed in the answer. Do you want me to read it or talk about it still?
Yes, please. For
Okay.
the callers, we have a few callers. They're unable to see the questions.
Yes. There was a question asking generally, how long does it take to become a police officer? And for a new police officer, getting through the hiring process and the backgrounds, and then the police academy, which is 6 months long, that whole process can sometimes take about 1.5 years, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. For a lateral police officer, it goes a little quicker because they don't need to go to the police academy, and generally their field training goes a little quicker. So about 1.5 years to 2 years to get fully trained and out on the streets. And I think that was the only question I had.
Thank you, Sergeant. Since I have you now, can you talk a little bit about the trespass website that you were mentioning about? We're going to
Yeah.
pull that up right now for you so you can explain it to us in detail.
Yeah, sure. So we have a trespass letter process in place where most of the time it's a business can send us a letter, and the letter criteria is on the website right here. There's a sample down at the bottom. All you need to do is really copy it, fill in your information, put it on your letterhead, and then email it to us at the email address that's on there at the bottom. It's 602letters@anaheim.net, and we'll keep it on file. When you have somebody trespassing on your property, at that point, all you need to do is call the police and tell them there's somebody here that's trespassing. We'll send somebody out. We don't need to contact you. We use this letter. We contact that individual. We'll document the contact with them in our computer system and give them a warning that they need to leave the property. And if they return at a later time and they're contacted on the property again by another officer, they can see that they were previously warned. And at that point, they're subject to being arrested for trespassing. And again, with the letter being on file, we don't need to have you come out and sign a private person's arrest or anything like that. It's all done in the letter. So it's a very effective tool for us when we have people that are loitering on private property.
Thank you, Sergeant. I believe that there isn't any further questions. We'll move on to Sandra. I did see that there's a few questions for you. Do you mind sharing those with us, please?
Sure, thank you. We had a resident actually provide a compliment of a good experience contacting CCRT for concerns they had in Boysen Park. So I thank you for that. I'm glad it's working. And you can always let me know if you call that number or use Anaheim anytime and you're not getting the results you expect, then let me know. We can definitely follow up with that team. And then there was a concern with the resident with people blocking their driveway. Definitely report that. You can either use Anaheim anytime, which is the easiest because it goes straight to our parking team. And we have parking teams 7 days a week, and we have some at night, like they're working tonight. And so if you use Anaheim Anytime, it'll go straight to our parking team that's working, and they'll actually head out there and then they'll respond back to you on what they did. So if anybody's blocking your driveway, we can send a team out and we'll issue a citation for that. So that way you can keep your driveways clear so you can get out of your driveway from your home and back in. I think that was it for me on my questions that I saw.
Great, thank you, Sandra. I think that was it. And thank you for the CCRT. It seems like it's very effective and we're getting good response and the residents are seeing some change with that group. Thank you. Now we'll go on to Elaine. Elaine, I do see that you do have a couple questions. Do you mind sharing that with us, please?
Yes, thank you. I had a couple of questions about the plan, and one question is asking, does the Center City corridors take into account the need for more green space? And the answer is yes, it absolutely does. We are coordinating with community services staff, and they are part of our interdepartmental team on the specific plan. And our plan will be consistent with the city goals for additional open space and a certain amount of open space per resident, and open space within like a 10-minute walk from residences. So that is something that we are looking at and trying to be consistent with the overall city goals for open space. And then the other question had to do, they're asking, have other cities implemented a similar program to Center City corridors, and has it helped the community? So my answer in general for other cities is that absolutely yes, many cities in California prepare specific plans and corridor plans with the goal of revitalizing and encouraging positive growth and development. I don't have statistics in terms of how successful they are, but I will say that Anaheim also has several specific plans. Some of the older ones were targeted for very specific developments out in the Hill area. A lot of residential developments out there have specific plans, but we also have specific plans for the Anaheim Resort as well as for the Anaheim Canyon. And both of those plans have been implemented over the years, and I believe that they're successful in that targeted development that we're looking for in both of those areas. Beach Boulevard specific plan was approved just a couple of years ago, and we are already starting to see new projects as a result of that specific plan.
Great, thank you, Elaine. And as Elaine mentioned, please feel free to visit the website so you can get further information and obtain updates, or if you have comments, feel free to reach out to her or the website so you can get all your questions answered. Katrina, I did see it that you have a question. Do you mind sharing that with us, please?
Of course. We had a resident that asked, when will the bookmobile/mobile library be back in valuable service? That is a great question. At this point, we don't have a timeline for when the mobile library might be back into service, but we're closely watching and waiting for when we can safely return to the service of our community. We all hope, and I am from the bookmobile team specifically and the STEAM team, we really do hope that it'll be soon, but we don't have a timeline at this point. But thanks for asking.
Thank you, Katrina. And we all do hope that it can come back soon because we all miss it. We miss it dearly. Sergeant, we do have a few questions for you. Question number one, package thefts from their porches or being just stolen from their porches. What can residents do about that?
We get this a lot, and I know they're very vulnerable just sitting out on your porches. Like I said earlier, if you're not home to get it, it's always good to have a great relationship with your neighbors. We always encourage neighborhood watches and looking out for each other's properties. On my street where I live, I know all my neighbors. I have all their phone numbers. They all have my phone number. And if we ever need to get a hold of them for something, or if I'm not home, just last week I had a package delivered to my door. I was gone for quite a while. I called my neighbor, asked her to pick it up, and she did. So that's one thing you can do. Maybe also, if you need to leave it at your house, you can ask the delivery person to leave it behind a gate or out of public view. And then also what I talked about was there's the Amazon lock boxes, which are like secured lock boxes at 7-Elevens and gas stations and whatnot. And that's an option that you can use as well. You're muted, Sandy.
I have another question for
Okay.
you. What is the police department doing to help prevent street racing and the crowds that they are bringing? I read that the city just passed a new law.
They did, and my understanding, it's going to go into enforcement in about 30 days. That it's a municipal code that deals with spectators at the street takeover type events. We do enforcement on those cases whenever we can catch up to them. A lot of times, these street racing crews come in very quickly and they're gone very quickly. There's a lot of them, and sometimes we just don't have the resources to get to them. But we do, at times, some investigative follow-up stuff. So for example, a few weeks ago, we had some street racers in the city that were doing burnouts in the street. They posted it on Instagram. Fortunately, they caught their license plates there for us, so we were able to capture those videos. And when they're doing that, they're damaging the street. So we will pursue a vandalism charge. And the amount of damage that they're causing is over $950. So it's a felony vandalism case. So we've done a few of those, and we plan on continuing to do those as much as we can, because that sends a pretty clear message, and the word will get out in the street racer community. If you come to Anaheim and do this, we're going to pursue criminal charges against you for damaging our streets. And even on private property, we've worked with some property owners who've had their parking lots damaged as well. And we're looking forward to the using the new municipal code for the spectators.
Thank you, Sergeant. Please, if anybody has seen or witnessed street racers, please reach out to the police department. Their non-emergency number.
Yes, and license plates, if you can get them, are very valuable to us, just for the reason like I was talking about, where we can pursue criminal charges, even if they've already left.
Thank you, Sergeant. Those are all the questions that we have. We actually have one last question. If this meeting is being recorded, yes, it is. We will actually post this recording on our neighborhood services website, which I encourage everybody to log on to, and it is anaheim.net/neighborhoods. And you will see here in this neighborhood, it's a great resource for everybody to obtain. It gives you information of our district community meetings, the times, and hopefully later on we'll be able to meet in person. If not, we'll probably use the webinar feature again. We have, if you haven't already done so, taken advantage of our neighborhood cleanup. This cleanup is a great resource for the community. We provide 30-yard dumpsters to the community one time a year for free, where you can dispose of any unwanted items. You call me, we set this up. I provide you with the flyers and the bins. And it's a great way to get to know your neighbors and clean out your garages, your homes, and utilize this service, and it's completely free. Another resource that we have here is our streetlight request. This is, maybe there's a street light that's not working in your neighborhood. You can go on the website and report it. It is one of the, I feel like, underutilized services that we offer here with neighborhood services. So please feel free to check out our website. We have a lot of resources, and you see the map here of where there has been replacement LED lighting. And we also have other resources with our neighborhood services page that can take you to community services, a library, and also, as we talked about earlier, our coronavirus webpage. I would encourage everyone to go on that website because it has all of our most up-to-date information for everyone. And if there is no other questions that I see on the Q&A, this concludes our meeting. Please feel free to reach out to us, reach out to me. My phone number is 714-765-4635. As mentioned, give me a call or send me an email if you want to set up a neighborhood cleanup, or you have any comments or complaints or questions about your neighborhood and you don't know where to go. I will be the best fit for you. With that, this concludes our meeting, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.